Hi, welcome back to another episode of Ben's Machines. So today we have a new project in the garage. We've got a 1997 Polaris XLT Touring. It's a Skidoo. I picked this thing up from a friend of mine who wasn't using it anymore. It was sitting outside on a pallet for I think at least a year, maybe even longer. I bought it, brought it into the garage, and I've spent a few hours on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a video today of putting some of the components together. What we have here is a 97 Polaris. It's got a tachometer that shows the engine speed or the engine RPM. It has a speedometer and it has 4,000 kilometers and a fuel gauge. Up on here you have the control, the kill switch, the on and off. Here you have the thumb warmer, as well as the hand grip warmer, brake, the visor heater. It's got side mirrors, electric start, choke, the pull lever. It's a 2-up, so the driver sits here, the passenger sits here. It has high-low hand grips for the passenger. It has reverse. It's got a nice little hitch in the back, so we can tow things behind here, and a little glove compartment. Let's have a look underneath the hood, shall we? So this is how I got the machine. The previous owner had been doing some work on it. It wasn't really clear on what that was, but as you can see, you have the throttles that were, the throttle cables that were disconnected from the carburetors. The air box was out. The CDI is out. The fuel on and off valve is out. So this is how I got the machine like this. And what I've done so far is I've used compressed air and I've blown out the debris. There was some nests in here, so I vacuumed and blew that out. This is where the battery goes because it has electric start. Here's the muffler here and the exhaust. Here's the engine. The engine is a 600cc 2-stroke, 3-cylinder, 3 individual carburetors. It is water cooled, so here's the water, the coolant circuit, and it's oil injection. So here's a reservoir for oil that gets metered by an oil pump here that injects oil directly into the engine. I don't know if you can see that, but there's little injection points right here in each one of these boots. So that just sprays oil into the engine to lubricate it. And then if we go over to the workbench, these are the parts that we're going to install today. This is the air box, the CDI, the fuel on-off valve. These are the clamps for the carburetors to the engine. Some spark plugs. I don't know if we're going to need these yet. And then over here on the workbench, we've got the carburetors. So these are the carburetors that are part of this engine. They weren't installed on the engine. They were given to me in a bag. So I've cleaned the carburetors up. In fact, I'll show you how I do that. So right here is a very handy machine. It's a digital ultrasonic cleaner. And I believe this one is a 10 liter. So what I do is I take my carburetors, I put them in this basket. I take the carburetors apart into their individual pieces. I put it into this basket, and then I lower the basket into this bath. And I can there's an element here that heats up the liquid. So I find I have best success when I have the liquid at 50 degrees Celsius. And this blue light indicates that the heater's on. So right now the water temperature is at 14 degrees. So that this number will eventually increase to 50. And then this number here is the run time. So I can lower the run time by 1 minute increments. The maximum Runtime, I believe, is 50. I usually run a cycle that's 15 minutes long. So this is just me setting the counter. So you load your items in here, you close the lid, and you click start. And then this is the solution that I use for cleaning. It's basically general purpose ultrasonic cleaner that you can buy at big box stores. I put a combination of this solution with with water and sometimes a little bit of Dawn dish soap. So it's a melange, and that does a really good job at cleaning. So now what we're going to do is reinstall the fuel bowls onto the carburetor housing, if you will. So all these surfaces have all been cleaned up. The carburetors themselves have been cleaned multiple times through the ultrasonic cleaner. I've done a visual inspection and there's no dirt or debris. All the parts move freely. The passages in these parts of the carburetor, they're all free and clear. There's no obstructions. The needle and seat actuates very well, so I think we're at a point now where we can just reassemble. I've never done this before, so. This needle has to be able to move up and down in the seat. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of penetrating oil in there. Just so that it moves freely. Okay, and then we'll get the next bowl installed. And then install these 4 screws to keep the bowl in place. Okay, so that's the second carburetor completed, and I'm just going to repeat the process for this one, the third and final one. Just making sure that needle moves freely in the seat. Otherwise, this can cause a problem where the carburetor could flood if the needle stays or gets stuck. Then the fuel continually runs into the engine. Carburetors are ready. I'll just spray some lubricant in here. Notice how this fuel connection is at a different angle than this and this one. Perhaps this means it goes on in a certain place, maybe at the end. So we'll see when we get to that point. Okay, so the carburetors are ready. Now let's work on the CDI. This is the CDI box. The CDI box mounts on top of the air box up high on the engine. But the cables to the CDI box actually run down underneath the carburetor. So I need to make sure that these wires are installed now, because it's a lot easier to get access to these now when the air box is not in the way. So I'm just going to lay the CDI box down in here, And I'm gonna run these cables, or these wires, down below, down here. The CDI box is connected to each one of the individual ignition coils that go to the spark plugs. Just hook up the red to the red, and I already cleaned the contacts of these cables on the stationary grinder, so they should connect well. Make sure you press them in tight. So this one here has a plastic boot to prevent this from shorting out if it touches anything metallic. This one here, the boot is missing. Maybe what I'll do is I'll run this cable in behind here too. So I'll run it all in behind here like this. Okay, I think I like that. So I'll connect the red. And for the black, because that boot was gone, I just cut a piece of clear plastic. So I'm just going to slide this over. Connect. And then just move this over like this, half and half. So now we don't have to be concerned with this shorting out. Now my coils are all now connected to the CDI box. The next thing we can do is connect the wires on this side of the CDI box. So this end of the CDI box has to tie into all these cables right here. Let's connect these now. So that's done. We'll just set this here for now. The next thing I want to do is set up my fuel line. The fuel line comes in from the gas tank right here. So when I flushed the fuel line already, I just put this temporary piece of fuel line with a nut and a little clamp just to keep things from leaking out. These are the original pieces or segments of fuel line. This one right here with this red clamp, this is the one that was attached to the gas tank. So I'm gonna just reproduce this exactly with using some new fuel line. So we're going to go and install this segment with this clamp onto the gas tank. This is the brass fitting right here that connects to the fuel tank. So I'm just taking this end and putting it over that brass fitting, pushing it on. As you can see, it's on all the way. Now I'll just use my needle nose pliers and just move that clamp. Now the next step, there was this fuel filter that was in place here that probably went something like this. So I'm not going to reuse this fuel filter. I'm going to put a new one. Okay, so here's my new fuel filter. There's an arrow here showing the flow of fuel. Let's get a spring clamp installed on here first. And then push on our filter. I think that's on good enough. And I just want to bring my clamp over till about here. So fuel from the gas tank has to come to this on-off switch or on-off valve, and then it eventually is going to end up it's got to end up here. Let's see what it looks like when we install this. This is the on-off valve. Off, on. So now this line has to go from here to here. This looks like it could have been an original line. Or I can go over. It all depends if the air box hits that. Gonna add some anti-seize on this. So let's go put these on the boots. So I can actually see the markings. They go like this. Like this is rubber, so they'll clamp down to the carburetor once we get the carburetors installed. And I hook up the fuel lines. These are the fuel lines, so they each need a green connector. I have a feeling because of where this one's located, the middle one probably gets the long tube. Grease just might make it a little bit easier to get them in the boot. Fuel line looks like it might be a little bit on the short side. This looks okay, just given it's the fact that there's an engine mount. Keep in mind, I never took these off, so this one here is long, which shouldn't be a problem considering how much space is under here. Unless, is he better like this? That fuel line alignment does not look good to me. You see this? That doesn't look good there. So I think with that grease on the boot, it makes working with the carburetor on the boot a lot easier to work with. Let's try it over here. I could see that being an okay bend, unless we can actually rotate this. Oh, we can. All right, so let's put them back in spot number 2. You know what I think I'm gonna have to do, guys, is I think I might have to make new fuel lines, because I find these fuel lines don't. There's not a whole lot of give in them. This one, that's it. I think that works. This one is too short, so I think I'm gonna put new fuel line on this one. All right, guys, so I think what I'm gonna do to make things go a little bit better for us is that I'm gonna replace these fuel lines. When you come back, we'll have the new carburetors installed with the new fuel line connected to the fuel pump. So stay tuned.